Welcome to today's webinar. Before we get started today, I want to make a few brief announcements. We know many of you are listening in from far away and can't attend local events or programs. That's why we provide this free webinar series. We host multiple webinars per month, so please visit our website to view the current schedule for 2017. Simply visit our website at www.johnson-center.org and click on the webinars link on the right-hand side. New webinars and events are often added, so if you are not on our email list, I encourage you to visit our website and click on the Join Our Email List link that appears on the home page. To get instant news and events from the Johnson Center, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as we often announce grant and scholarship opportunities, research opportunities, and special events and presentations there. And be sure to check out our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Johnson Center. There you will find a library of several of our past webinars covering a wide variety of topics. For those of you who are local, be sure to check out our Back to School Bash coming up on Saturday, September 9th. This is a free, fun family event for all children ages 4 to 10. You can find more information on our Facebook page. And be sure to follow our colleagues at the Autism Research Institute as they host their own webinar initiative and they share some great resources on their website and social media pages. If you would like a certificate of attendance after today's webinar, look for a follow-up email in your mailbox 1 hour after the webinar concludes, or look for the link on our YouTube channel in the webinar description. It will contain instructions on how to get your certificate. If you have questions during the live webinar, you may type them into your GoToWebinar control panel. If you're watching a recording of this webinar, you may email questions to the presenter at info@johnson-center.org. Today's webinar is presented by Tami. Amanda is a licensed professional counselor and board-certified behavior analyst who oversees the behavioral and counseling programs here at the Johnson Center. Her compassion, knowledge, and dedication make her an invaluable member of our community. Please welcome Tami.
Thank you, and thank you everyone for joining me today. We're going to be talking about toilet training, and yes, you can. This daunting task of toilet training does not need to be so hard or terrifying as a lot of parents think it is. So we're going to, I'm going to go through a method to use for toilet training today, and hopefully at the end we'll have some time for questions, but if not, you can email your questions to info@johnson-center.org. So let's get started. Okay. So when we're thinking about toilet training a child, it's important that we make sure that they're ready to be toilet trained before we start the process. And there are so many factors to consider in deciding when it's time to start toilet training. The most basic one and the one that everyone thinks of is age. Chronological age for toilet training readiness is typically about 2 years old. Of course, some kids will be a little bit younger, some kids a little bit older when they're ready, and we're going to talk about these other factors. But generally, the typical age of readiness is 2 years old. Now, I said the chronological age is 2 years old. I'm sorry, we typically think that when a child is 2 years old chronologically that they're ready, but we need to also be considering their developmental level. Is the child who is chronologically developmentally 2 years old? Often they're not, especially with our kids with autism and other special needs. So we really need to be looking at the mental or developmental age of being 2 years or older rather than strictly looking at the chronological age. Awareness is one of the major signs that we're looking for to know that the child is ready. Awareness of being wet, of the toileting routine, showing interest in other people using the toilet, awareness of needing to go, and awareness of the body sensation of being wet and being able to stay dry for longer periods of time. Regular bowel movements, also really important physiologically, that they can hold urine and they have bowel movements at regular intervals, and well, there are medical conditions that we want to look for to make sure they're not going to make toileting more difficult. For example, constipation. If a child has chronic constipation, that's a contraindication for toileting. They're just not physiologically able to have regular bowel movements or to be able to consistently use the toilet the way they need to be able to for toilet training to be successful. Urinary tract infection, other medical reasons for urinary or fecal incontinence, these are all medical conditions that, of course, we want to be checked out by a doctor and have a doctor's input in treating them. But if any of those things are present, it's a contraindication for toileting at this time. And motor skills and listener responding skills. Motor skills like being able to sit up, being able to transfer oneself from wherever they are to the bathroom, being able to pull pants up and down, and listener responding skills like being able to follow simple instructions. These motor and listener responding skills need to be in place for the training procedure to be effective. So I'm going to be talking about a method based on the protocol by Azrin and Fox, and you can read more about this in their book, Toilet Training in Less Than a Day. However, note that that title is a little bit deceiving, and this is especially true for kids with special needs, but even if you have a typically developing child who is completely ready for toilet training, the training part maybe you can do in one day, but this method requires a lot of preparation. So as a parent going into it, know that you need to be planning to plan to spend more than one day doing this. And if you have a child with special needs, even more so, it takes much more practice and reinforcement to acquire the skill sometimes. So you might be looking at more like 2 to 3 days or even more than 5 days for your child to master this. So their book is called Toilet Training in Less Than a Day, and it talks about this method that I'm going to be reviewing today. But know that to think of toilet training in less than a day can be a little bit misleading. So we're going to talk about the intensive upfront training that you'll need to do first in your toilet training, and then the ongoing training to maintain the new skill that they're learning. We're going to talk about the importance of communication and how to teach communication for toileting, and some troubleshooting of common problems that come up. So let's get started with the intensive upfront training. Habit training, and this is a new habit that we're teaching, begins with upfront training. During this upfront training time, there are no more diapers. Diapers are gone. We're going to be using a toileting schedule, taking the child to the bathroom on a very strict schedule, increasing fluid intake, and increase in salty food so that we can continue to increase fluid intake. And this results in increased urination, increased opportunity to practice using the bathroom for success in this new behavior that they're learning. We're going to do dry pants checks. We're going to have lots of reinforcement for this new wanted behavior. We expect that this whole process will take about 2 days, knowing that for some kids it can take a lot longer. And actually older kids can take even longer than that. And we're going to do positive practice for when accidents happen, and we're going to go through all of these more specifically. And then continuation beyond this intensive upfront training relies on ongoing prompting and coordination across settings. So as we're getting started with this, before you before you start this procedure with your child, you as the parent should do some things to prepare for it. First, choose the right time to start. If it's a really busy time for your family, if your child is sick, if you just don't have someone who you can dedicate to be there managing this very intense toileting schedule for a few days, it might not be the right time. So choose the time that you do this wisely. You're going to take some data before you actually start the procedure to figure out their toileting schedule, and you're going to use that data to make the toileting schedule, but having this baseline data in place before you start is really important. So do that, and we'll talk more about that in just a minute. Get all the materials that you'll need. Have them on hand. Don't be in the position where you start toilet training and realize you don't have something you need and then have to stop and start over. Develop a plan for a dedicated adult to attend to the child. This is not the time for multitasking. Have one person whose job over these 2 or 3 days is to manage the toilet schedule, take the child to the bathroom, because you'll be doing dry pants checks or going to the bathroom about every 15 minutes. For some kids, even more frequently than that. So to be trying to do this and also trying to work or run the rest of your household is really kind of impossible. And then have a plan in place for coordination across settings once this initial upfront training is complete. So sit down and look at all of this before you get started so that you're prepared and don't run into any surprises or find that you're not prepared for some situation that comes up and then have to start over another time once you have what you need. So as I mentioned, we're going to take some data first before we start before we start toilet training, and then during the entire process we're going to be taking data. And you'll use it, you'll want a data sheet that looks something like this with this information on it. You want the time of day, whether they're wet or dry at that time, whether or not they sat on the toilet, and whether or not they voided in the toilet. And like I said, you're using this data sheet first to collect baseline data. And this is to see how often and around what times your child urinates or has bowel movements. And then you'll use that information to make a toileting schedule. And this information is really, really important to have an effective schedule in place. You want to make sure that you're going to the bathroom at about the time that your child needs to go to the bathroom. You can use this same data sheet once you start toileting. You'll notice that for right now, there's in this example, there's no data. There's nothing in the sat on toilet or urinated columns, because at this point, while we're taking baseline data, your child is not sitting on the toilet or urinating in the toilet. You're only checking his or her diaper at this point. So the only information that you're collecting right now is the time of day and whether they were wet or dry, whether their diaper was wet or dry. Now, it can be helpful to do this for the first few hours on the day that you're starting potty training, but before you actually start the procedure with your child. And to do it on that morning rather than to start it a few days before or the day before, because on the day that you start potty training, you're going to be increasing the salty foods that you're giving your child and increasing how much liquid you're giving them to create more urine, more opportunities for urination. So if once that intake increases, that might change the toileting schedule. So if you take the baseline data the day before and then increase their fluid intake the next day, that the schedule that you developed based on the data from the day before might not be accurate anymore. There are several things that you will want to have on hand when you get started. Number one, underwear, and lots of it. There are going to be accidents. We know that. So let's have lots of underwear on hand, ready to use, so that when an accident happens, we can just change into a new pair. We don't have to worry about running out or needing to do laundry very frequently because we only have a limited pair of underwear. Have lots of underwear on hand and ready to use. You can have pull-ups for nighttime only. Pull-ups are absorbent like a diaper is. So if the child urinates, the diaper absorbs that, and the child loses the sensation of feeling wet. It's just not as effective as as a wet pair of underwear to help them feel that sensation and know that they've had an accident and need to change, and that they're supposed to be urinating on the potty instead, and all of that information for them is really important to this procedure. So pull-ups are okay overnight, but during the day, no pull-ups. Rubber underwear or the special underwear for potty training are okay outside of the underwear, but we want them to be wearing the cotton or the cloth underwear next to their skin so that they get that sensation of wetness. And if you need to protect other things in your house from getting wet, then it's okay to put those plastic or rubber underwear on outside of the regular underwear. You'll want to have an accessible potty chair or small toilet for your child to use. Make sure that it's something that's comfortable for them, whether that's an insert into the regular toilet or a child's potty chair that would go on the floor. Either is okay, whatever is more comfortable for your child, whatever they can access easily. If you are using the regular toilet with an insert put in it for them, it might be helpful to have a step stool so that they can sit on the toilet pretty easily. And like I said, whichever option you choose it's okay. There's no right or wrong. Sometimes this is certainly not an always thing, but sometimes to have an insert in the regular toilet makes generalization easier, so that once you're out of the house and using other toilets, the child knows what to do in those toilets. They can generalize that skill more easily. But you always have the option to carry your toilet, your other potty chair with you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Also have on hand some highly preferred rewards. Now, this includes the things that are most that your child cannot live without as far as their preferences. Their favorite foods, their favorite toys, the iPad, if there's a favorite video, whatever they absolutely have to have, that they just love it so much that they need to have it in their lives. These are the things that you want to identify, and now you're going to make them contingent on using the toilet. So you may want to put them in the bathroom or somewhere near the bathroom, but out of reach. Let the child know that they're there and they can have them when they use the potty. They're only going to get these rewards when they use the potty, and these are their most highly preferred rewards. Maybe things like if your child loves M&Ms, maybe you have a bag of M&Ms sitting in or near the bathroom, so that as soon as they use the potty, or as soon as they have a dry diaper during a dry pants check, or a dry diaper, not a dry diaper, dry pants during a dry pants check, they get this an M&M, one of their highly preferred rewards. Have preferred liquids, anything that they like to drink, have on hand and have a lot of it. Encourage drinking a lot of it so that they produce more urine. Same with salty snacks. If we have more salty snacks, we want to drink more. So be giving lots of salty snacks to increase fluid intake. Have lots of extra clothing on hand. Like I said, with the underwear, there's going to be accidents. So have lots of clothes on hand so that you don't find yourself in a position where we need to protect these clothes because we don't have any more. I need to do laundry. We're out of shorts to wear. So have all of these clothes clean and on hand, ready to be worn to change into as soon as you need them. Pants alarms are little buzzers or ringers that go off when the pants get wet. These I find are often not necessary for most kids, but there are those cases where kids have an especially hard time learning to use the potty, or especially kids who have issues identifying the sensation in their body of needing to go to the bathroom. Pants alarms can be helpful, and you can find those on Amazon. Have items to prevent mess if you need to, furniture covers, mattress covers. Some families will get a tarp and put it over their carpeting. Whatever you need to protect your furniture, know that it is going to get wet. And visual cues. PEX cards to communicate potty, visual schedule of toileting and washing hands. Even if your child is verbal and doesn't really use visuals, it can be a good idea to have them in place anyways, just as a reminder. If they see this potty card, or if they see the visual schedule on the wall, it's just a reminder or a prompt for them to, oh yeah, I need to use the potty right now. So it can be a good idea to have those, even if your child doesn't typically use visuals. So thinking about what to wear during this time of upfront training, I've already said underwear, no more diapers, and pull-ups are okay at night. And the training underwear are okay. It's really important that the child feels that sensation of being soiled, and don't let them stay in their soiled pants or underwear, because then they lose that sensation. We get used to the feeling of the wetness on the skin if we're in the underwear for too long. So make sure that as soon as you find an accident, or as soon as you find that your child has had an accident, you're changing into a new set of underwear, so that if they have another accident, they immediately feel the wetness again if they have another accident. Now the pull-ups are okay at night, because we know that nighttime continence, or being able to hold it overnight, comes later. Some kids, at the time that they are ready for daytime potty training, are not able to hold their urine for that long period overnight. So that it's okay to use those at nighttime. I would discourage using it at nap time, because what I find is that a lot of kids will, if they know that they are going to be put in a diaper later in the day once they take a nap, they will learn to hold it, and they'll hold it until they get that diaper on at nap time, and then they'll go in the diaper, and they will avoid using the toilet. They'll just hold it until they get to wear a diaper. So if you're only putting the diaper on or the pull-ups on at night, that's a much longer period that they have to hold it, and much more difficult to do, and so more likely that they'll use the toilet, even if they resist it and want to try to hold it until they have the diaper on. And then outside of the underwear, you just want to be putting your child in clothes that are comfortable and easy to take on and off. A skirt, sweatpants, shorts, anything that comes up and down easily is ideal. Avoid anything that has buttons or zippers, especially belts They can be really difficult for kids. Overalls, or things that take a long time to get on and off, or tights, really tight pants that it is hard to pull up and down. Just avoid all of that, all of the clothes like that, because that just makes it harder to go to the bathroom, to get your pants down when you need to go. So we want to just eliminate any barriers, anything that makes it harder, that creates an obstacle to get to the bathroom and go to the bathroom. We want to just eliminate all of those obstacles and make it as easy as possible to be successful. Like I mentioned, we're increasing the likelihood of success by increasing opportunities. So we're giving lots of salty food and lots of drinks. This increases the frequency of urination. That increases opportunities for toileting. Every time there's urination, that's an opportunity for using the toilet. And more opportunities means more success. The more times we have to practice, the better, the more success we have. So we want the child to be urinating at least 1 to 2 times an hour. The actual times and how often are going to depend on the data that you collected in the first several hours of starting toilet training. And always take the child to the bathroom after eating and drinking. So you're going to use the data that you collected before toilet training to figure out a schedule. And you're going to be scheduling trips to the bathroom for approximately the same frequency that your child had wet and dirty diapers. So if that was every 30 minutes, for example, then you want to schedule a trip to the bathroom every 30 minutes. Maybe it's more frequent than that. If so, schedule them more frequently, every 20 minutes or 15 minutes, about the same frequency that you had found wet diapers. That's how often you want to be going to the toilet. And then in between each trip to the bathroom, schedule what is called a dry pants check. In a dry pants check, the child just feels for whether their pants are dry, and they get reinforcement for dry pants. The dry pants check helps to teach continence. We'll talk more about it shortly, but we're going to be scheduling those between trips to the bathroom. You're going to want to take data similar to this for each trip. This is not only important for determining mastery. Of course, in ABA, we take data on all of our behaviors, and we have a target that we want to meet, and that tells us that, yes, I have met this goal, I have mastered this skill, I'm ready to move on. And taking data like this is important for that, but it's also just really important for you to keep track of what time it is and when the child last went to the bathroom. There are a lot of trips to the bathroom and a lot of dry pants checks, and it can be really easy to lose track of when to go or when to do a dry pants check if you're not recording it and keeping track of it like this. So your data sheet should include the time of the bathroom trip or the pants check, whether their pants were wet or dry at the time, whether or not the child sat on the toilet. If you're doing a dry pants check, the answer will be no, and whether or not he voided in the toilet. You'll leave that field blank for pants checks. So you'll see at 9:15, that was a pants check. Pants were dry, sat on the toilet, no, because it was a pants check. And that urinated field is blank because he didn't sit on the toilet, so it wasn't an option to void in the toilet. When taking the child to the toilet, teach them to communicate that they need to go. This will be absolutely key once we start self-initiating. So each time it's time to go to the bathroom, Ask your child, do you have to go potty? And have them either say or indicate with a picture card or a sign the word potty. Having the child say potty before you take them to the potty teaches them that this is what they do before they go. This is how they communicate that they need to go potty. If the child initiates or says potty or I need to go potty or gives you the potty card without you asking, take them immediately. Always reinforce any effort to communicate. And minimize obstacles to self-initiation. Self-initiation, when I say that, I mean the child walks to the bathroom on his or her own and voids with either no or minimal assistance from an adult. They might need help unbuckling fasteners or getting up onto the toilet, stuff like that. That's okay. Or self-initiation also means communicating the need to go without assistance from an adult. And including, so we're minimizing obstacles to self-initiation, and that includes things like access to the toilet or wearing difficult clothing or requiring that they always ask before they go. Now I just said when taking your child to the toilet, communicate, always have them communicate potty so that they're telling you they need to go. And when they're first learning this skill, it's important that you make them communicate and that you're taking them to the potty every time. Once they're able to do it by themselves and they don't need your help or they don't need prompting or they're asking to go by themselves, then it's not so important that they ask every time. Allow them, especially if you're just at home in your own house, allow them to go when they need to go. That requiring them to ask to go every time can create a barrier that they then, have these few extra seconds that they're not getting to the bathroom quickly enough. But we need to make sure that they have the skills to use the bathroom and to communicate that before we can expect them to be able to do it themselves. And of course, when you're in public, having them communicate that they need to go potty is pretty important, otherwise you don't know where your child is going. Okay, let's talk about the dry pants check. Like I said, this occurs between trips to the toilet, and your child is just using their hand to touch their crotch to see if their pants are wet or dry. This helps to prevent accidents and teaches continence. You're going to say at 9:15, when it's time for the dry pants check, you say, "Are you wet or dry?" They reach and touch and find that they're dry. Reward her or him if she is dry. Now, the rewards that we're giving for dry pants checks are going to be different rewards than the ones they get for using the toilet. For dry pants checks, these are preferred items, but the most highly preferred items we want to save for using the toilet. That is the biggest celebration, that is the biggest accomplishment, the biggest reinforcement they get for using the toilet. But we do want to reward for the dry pants check. So it should be something smaller and something that is kind of time limited, since these happen so frequently. We don't want to gosh, excuse me. We don't want to be using reinforcement that takes a long time, because we're going to have another pants check in 10 or 15 minutes. So if that entire time is reinforcement, then that reinforcement loses value. And use behavior-specific praise. Good, you were dry, or great job having dry pants. Tell them exactly what they're getting rewarded for. Behavior-specific praise means that you're giving a positive statement that includes the explanation of the behavior that they just did that they're being rewarded for. reinforce any successful voiding in the toilet. Even just a tiny little bit of urine gets in the toilet, that is cause for celebration. You're going to pair social praise or behavior-specific praise with whatever tangible or highly preferred reward your child is getting as reinforcement. So it could be a food snack or a favorite toy or the iPad. When they get the iPad, for example, you're also saying, wonderful job using the potty to go pee-pee. Always give them the behavior-specific praise with whatever that high-value item is that they're getting as their reward. Reward should be defined by the child, not the adult. So you don't get to choose what you think your child should get for going to the bathroom. It's whatever they find the most high value, those things that they can't live without, favorite foods, favorite toys. And like I said earlier, the only time that they have access to those favorite toys at this point is when they void on the toilet, when they urinate in the toilet or have a bowel movement in the toilet. Those things are now contingent on going to the bathroom. These should be immediate, so things that you can give them in the bathroom. If they have to go to the bathroom and then come out and go to the TV to watch a DVD, that is much less effective because there's a delay between the behavior and when they're getting the reinforcement. So do whatever you have to do to get that reinforcer into the bathroom so that they can have it immediately as soon as they use the toilet. And heavily emphasized, you are making the biggest deal out of using the toilet that you can possibly make it a huge party. We're going to do something called positive practice when an accident happens. And accidents are going to happen. That there's just no way to avoid it. Positive practice is the repeated performance of a wanted behavior in response to an unwanted behavior. So when the child has an accident, that was an unwanted behavior. So they're going to practice what we want them to do instead. We're going to do positive practice immediately upon discovering an accident. And when you find the accident, you just use a calm, firm, neutral voice. Do not be punitive and just say, for example, pee-pee goes in the potty, and then immediately take the child to the toilet. Prompt or help the child to change their pants and say, you've wet your pants, and now we have to practice. Practice the entire toileting sequence, sitting on the potty, wiping, flushing, washing their hands. Repeat this 3 to 5 times, beginning the sequence where the accident occurred, and say pee-pee goes on the potty, walk to the toilet, pull down their pants, sit on the toilet, stand up, pull their pants up, wash their hands, return to the accident site, and do it again. Repeat this 3 to 5 times. And then after those 3 to 5 times, when they're sitting on the potty, they don't actually have to be going. They probably don't need to go, but they're practicing the routine 3 to 5 times. And then go back to your scheduled toileting. The next time that is time for a pants check, do a pants check. The next time that is time to sit on the toilet, just go right back to the schedule that you were using before. After you've done the positive practice and the child has done this whole routine 3 to 5 times, have the child clean up the mess from the accident. They're going to be responsible for cleaning up their own urine. You can help them, or you can go in after them and clean up, make sure that they've actually, gotten everything, but make sure the child does the action of cleaning up. They're not only learning that it not only makes it much more effortful for them to have to go in their pants than on the toilet. It would be way easier to go on the toilet because now I have to do this whole routine and I have to clean up after myself. it makes having an accident much more effortful than going to the bathroom on the potty. But it's also just good practice to teach your child that they clean up their own messes. Okay, so once the intensive upfront training is complete, we do some maintenance, some ongoing training. And we do this once the child self-initiates. The first few days of intensive training establish continence and establish this habit, this new habit of using the bathroom. Then we can transition to ongoing training once the child has self-initiated. Again, self-initiate means either communicating the need to go or just going to the bathroom on their own and completing the routine about 10 times. We want to see self-initiation about 10 times, and then it's a time to transition to this ongoing training. So once we get to this phase of ongoing training, we're going to resume the normal fluid intake. We had this intensive procedure with increased fluid intake for 2 to 3 days or longer, depending on the child. Now go back to normal fluid intake and normal toileting schedule. No longer having to go 1 to 2 times an hour. You're using the child's own body and sensations and body awareness to indicate when they need to go, now that they have the skill to self-initiate. The first 2 days are likely what's needed to establish continence, so the child won't go until they're taken to the bathroom. Also during this phase, we need to try to coordinate across settings. So ensure adult coverage during all waking hours still to make sure that they have access to the bathroom anywhere you go. So if you go somewhere in public, you go to the grocery store, make sure you know where the bathroom is there, so that if your child self-initiates, indicates that they need to go, you can easily get them there without having to search for the bathroom, or just if you know where it is, have easy access to the bathroom. That makes things much easier and much more likely for success. And continue with the prompting procedures that you were already using at any new locations and with any new people. So now if the child goes to school on Monday, tell the teacher, this is the procedure that we've been using for prompting. Please continue to do this. And once you resume this normal fluid intake and toileting schedule, you can begin to fade the dry pants checks. So gradually over a couple of days, decrease them in number and in frequency until they're not happening at all, and fade reinforcement. Again, do this gradually, not just all of a sudden. Fade to an intermittent schedule, where we were using what's called a continuous schedule of reinforcement, where every time they went to the bathroom in the toilet, they got this reinforcement. Now we're going to do an intermittent schedule, and on an intermittent schedule, they get a reward for going to the bathroom on the toilet sometimes, but not every time. But continue the praise. Continue to make a big deal about it and praise them for using the potty for as long as you need to, until they have definitely mastered this skill. The social praise, you can continue. No need to fade that out right away. If you need to, once this intensive training is complete, carry the potty chair in the car. Like I said, we want access to the toilet to be easy. And if you're somewhere that access to the toilet is not so easy, then take the potty chair with you. That's okay. Do whatever you have to do to make access to the potty easy for your child. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about communication. You may want to consider alternative forms of communication, even if your child is verbal and doesn't typically use these. objects, PEX cards, printed words, signs, visual schedules. We just want to make communicating easy as possible. Especially can be especially helpful in public once you've gone to the ongoing training, to the maintenance phase. If you carry a card with you, or do a sign language, the sign potty to your child, it can be just a prompt, a reminder that, oh yeah, I do have to go potty. You know, having these visuals that they see is just a really good reminder to be aware of their body and know when they have to go. And communication, like we said, is key for self-initiation. Self-initiation, again, means the child walks to the bathroom and voids on his or her own, or with minimal assistance, or communicates the need to go so that someone can take them. So when we're teaching self-initiation, we're planning for this early on, even before the child is able to self-initiate. Begin by always having the child communicate potty before you take them potty. Even during the habit training, when you're on this very strict toileting schedule, always have them communicate potty somehow, verbally or non-verbally. And reinforce any attempts to communicate the need to go, even when behaviors aren't desired. Like if they're yelling or doing the pee-pee dance, that's not what we want them to be doing to communicate, but it is communicating that they need to go. And right now, it's much more important that we communicate, or that we reinforce communication than the right communication. So if you see your child doing the pee-pee dance, you say, I see that your body's telling me that you have to go to the bathroom. Thank you so much to your body for telling me. Let's go to the bathroom. And reinforce that. Later, once they are showing signs of continence and are going to the bathroom more frequently, there are less accidents, then you can start to shape that communication into what you actually do want to see, you know, just stating I have to go potty or whatever word you're using. But to start, we just want to reinforce any communication, any way that they're communicating the need to go. I've already mentioned make the bathroom available at all times. This just makes it much easier for the child to self-initiate when they're ready to do that, if they have the bathroom there and they can go when they need to. And encourage independence during any steps that don't require prompting. So once the child knows how to pull down the pants and sit on the potty, let them do that without assistance. And over time, as they get more practice and get more mastery of this entire skill set, more and more of those pieces of this skill they'll be able to do independently and without prompting. So just encourage independence in as many of those steps as you can. And don't require asking if they can go by themselves. So at home, once they're able to go and they are self-initiating, don't require them to tell you that they're going or ask you to go. Just let them go on their own. And that's what we would expect for older kids, or for kids who have been potty trained for a long time, is that they don't have to ask to go to the bathroom. When they have to go, they feel that they have to go, they just go. So that's what we're working toward when we're doing this. Okay, I have about 10 minutes left, so I'm going to go through these common challenges that parents might face. First of all, don't reprimand your child for accidents. Remain neutral. This is a new skill for the child, not only the behavior of using the toilet, but also the awareness of the body sensations that are needed to succeed. This is all brand new. So don't be punitive, don't reprimand if the child has an accident. This is new. They're still learning. Remain neutral, go through the positive practice steps, but it's not it's not meant to be punitive. And although it may be frustrating and an emotional time for you, it's really important that you remain neutral in your interactions with your child. Speaking of positive practice, more is better. Do not stop due to tantrums. And there certainly will be tantrums. Kids don't like this positive practice thing. So shoot for at least 3 times of doing the sequence, repeating the sequence. 5 times is better. Know that there will be tantrums and don't stop just because of tantrums. Avoid sitting in the bathroom for long periods of time. Instead, leave and come back soon if you know that it's about time that the child needs to urinate. Only stay in there. Only leave the child in there for a few minutes at a time. And make the time that you spend in the bathroom fun. Provide fun activities. If you need to play games, sing songs, read books, but make sure that those most reinforcing items or activities are contingent on voiding. Now, it's very common that bowel movements will lag behind, that a child learns to urinate on the toilet before they learn to poop on the toilet. That's really common. And often having bowel movements on the toilet just needs more time with this behavioral procedure. But if you're finding that there is not progress being made, or it's been several weeks or months and it's still you're not seeing improvement or signs that the child is moving in the right direction, rule out constipation. With constipation, often a combination of laxatives and the behavioral interventions can be helpful, but talk to your doctor, see what your doctor can recommend if there is any constipation. Or on the other hand, diarrhea, if your child has chronic diarrhea. I had mentioned earlier that medical or physiological issues like that can be a contraindication for toilet training. So work with your doctor if your child is having those kinds of issues. If there aren't those kinds of issues, continue with the behavioral interventions. You may need to you may need a new, stronger, novel reinforcer for pooping rather than peeing. Those same reinforcers might not be enough at this point. Let's find something new, something that'll make pooping on the toilet really make them really motivated to do that. You might have to increase the amount of time that you spend sitting on the potty up to 15 to 20 minutes. Up until this point, we were just, only a few minutes at a time, and then getting off the potty and going back to regular day. Once we're really focusing on pooping on the potty, you might have to spend more time sitting there. And make sure you're using the data that you took to have an accurate schedule, that you know about when your child poops every day, and have the toilet nearby during that time. Nighttime continence, I mentioned earlier, also can come later. You can wait for spontaneous progress. Sometimes kids just need more time to be able to hold it for longer periods. So just, putting them in a diaper only at night, you can do that until they start to wake up with a dry diaper. And waking up with a dry diaper is typically what we're looking for to know that they can get through the whole night without having an accident. Some other common approaches are to reduce fluids near bedtime so they get less to drink as it gets closer to bedtime so that they'll have to urinate less. You can wake them up during the night to go to the bathroom. So if you know that your child can hold it for maybe 3 hours, maybe after 3 hours you wake them up, have them go sit on the potty, and then they can go back to sleep. You wake them up in another 3 hours. And this method, like I said, the child needs to be ready for it physiologically and in their awareness and their ability to wake up when they need to go. But if you are waking them up every few hours, or if you can use a pants alarm and fade that pants alarm, doing these things results in improvement in the child's awareness because they're gradually waking up earlier and earlier in their urination. It's called an anuretic episode when they are urinating in bed. And I also just want to mention that if your child is not making any progress after several weeks, or if your child starts to have accidents after having success, they have been using the potty consistently and they are self-initiating, and then all of a sudden they're not anymore, you may want to see your doctor. An overactive bladder or voiding dysfunction, constipation, infections, all of these things can impact success during the initial training or after successful potty training. So if this is the case for you or your child, see a doctor sooner than later because more issues can develop if these issues are there and they're left untreated. Okay, and it is just about time. Let's see, I have 1 minute, so I will I think I can answer one question. Okay. I read that I should not ask my child if she has to go potty because she will say no so that she can keep playing. But instead I should make the statement, let's go sit on the potty. If she will likely say no, even if she does have to go, why should I ask her if she has to go? Oh, I see. Okay. So asking her if she needs to go to the potty as a question versus giving the statement, let's go sit on the potty. And I had said earlier in the presentation that you should always ask before taking your child, do you have to go potty? Yes, okay, good question. In the future, you should transition to instructing her, let's go sit on the potty, instead of asking the question. However, right now, to start, we're teaching communication and self-initiation, and by asking the question, we're teaching the child to communicate when she has to go. Communication is the back and forth of is the two exchanges is what we're teaching. So it's really just acting as the SD, as the cue that your child should communicate to go potty. Once you move to the maintenance phase and your child is self-initiating, yes, you will want to fade out asking the question, encourage self-initiation, so you're not always asking them to go, they're able to go when they need to without you needing to ask them or to prompt them to go. And at this point, if you're seeing signs that your child needs to go and they're not going, give the instruction to go sit on the potty rather than asking the question. Okay. If you would like a certificate of attendance, look for a follow-up email that will be coming in the next 24 hours. This will have a link to a short quiz that when you complete, it will allow you to download a certificate of attendance. To receive updates on the webinar schedule, follow us on Facebook or Twitter, or sign up for email notifications. And for more information about the Johnson Center services, contact us at info@johnson-center.org or 512-732-8400. And I thank you so much for coming to this webinar today, and thanks for your time and your attention.